Amazing. Yeah, so as we side lie, you can support your head however you want to. It can be an arm support, it can be a block support, or even a pillow support if you're really lucky. And we're going to just take a moment to sort of roll the chest forwards and backwards. And as you roll the chest forwards and backwards, you can see how it affects your top hip as well. It sort of pulls that top knee back. So this is one of the potential movements that we're going to avoid. That's why we have to do them. And I just want you to find that place where your chest is definitely on the side, and that's going to stay still. And then we've obviously got pelvic movement, which can tuck and untuck. So that's another movement that we're just going to be aware of when it happens. So if you do it, then you know it. And then the other movement is that the top hip tends to travel up, and almost to stabilize it, we almost want to push that top hip just slightly down. So we think about the two side waists as being even. So it's a little bit of effort to maintain that position. So I just want you to find that. And it should look, if you look at your knees, that they're stacked, they're even, your feet are stacked. And just find your 90-degree knee bend. We're just going to start with some little hip cars as a warm up. So the top knee will float and come into the chest. The top knee will open and we won't turn the ribs. We'll internally rotate the leg to kick back and then to bring it all the way back round. And then let's reverse that, kicking the heel behind us, turning the knee up, round, in, and back to the start. That was one. And we'll do another two like that. So just watch that side waist. Watch that nothing else moves. We know these so well by now, don't we? Just like second nature. Turning it around. In. Yeah. And just watch that sort of pinned to the ground parts of your body, that they stay pinned. And even though there's slight weight shift, you just don't want to allow for movement. So it should be sort of coming round-ish from the last one. And when you do come around from that last one, you're going to take that top foot and you're going to stack the arches of the feet as your knees come together. And then this is a teeny tiny movement as you open and close that top knee, still connecting the arches of the feet. So it's that little clamp, but it's a very limited and small movement. And again, just pin that rib cage down and keep that bottom hip almost pulling away from that bottom shoulder. These are nice, aren't they? These are nice. And what did Tony say on Monday night? He went, I'm imagining that that's your head between my knees that I'm squeezing. And I was like, Tony. No, didn't mean to come out like that. And it should feel at that top of that movement, you kind of like, oh, can't really go any further there. And if it helps you, you can take your hand across that low. That's it, Lise. A little bit. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
You feel it? It's nice, isn't it? Do you want to squish my head?
So many times I've dreamt of doing that.
There you go. Let's go another 5. 4. 3. That's what we want it to feel like. 2. 1. And then the best bit, we're now going to float that leg. And we're going to, I know, right? So we're going to internally rotate. So the foot will lift up as the knee points down, but you can go lower than the hip height here. So it's almost like you bring that top knee to touch the bottom knee and then back to level again. So just internal to neutral. And if that one didn't hurt, this one will. So if you, again, just be aware of your side waist, that it's not shortening as you drop the knee. These are fun. What we found the other night is that by the end of it, people just holding their heads like this. Oh, so many things to burn. Lovely. It's worth it. I promise it's worth it for what we do at the end. Just got to look forward to the whole hour now. Good. Let's do another 5. 4. 3. Is it burning?
Yeah.
2. one, keep the knee pointing down, but you're going to extend the leg straight, which should actually feel like a bit of relief. And then just bring the heel back until you feel the butt squeeze. So you're going to bring the heel back, straight leg, bringing the heel back. So your leg is straight, reaching, that's it. And then just swing the leg back. Now we're going to turn up and down with that thigh. So internal and external rotation. And again, with hand on the side waist, you're not pulling to roll forwards and back. So just find that internal, external. Keep going. We've lost music. These are nice, aren't they? Yeah, keep going. A little rest. Yeah. Lovely. And what we want to notice is that we don't want to sort of lift too high with that foot. We want to keep the leg about hip width. Next time your heel is up and your toes are down, we're going to lower the leg to the floor to just touch whatever part of the leg touches. And then we're going to lift up, but heel still points up. So we've got that internally rotated leg as we touch down and lift up, only to the height where you don't collapse or shorten the side waist. These are fun, aren't they?
No.
Do you know what makes these even more fun? Wearing a shoe. A nice heavy winter boot. Oh. How are we feeling? We all right? You all right, Sam?
No.
You know, I was talking about the best hip stretch in the world the other day.
Oh,
That's coming up. What?
I have such tight buttocks.
You really do. You really do have such a tight buttock. Okay, 5 more. Oh. Notice how it's less and less height that you're getting.
It wasn't high to start with.
We're nearly there for the last thing. When you've done that last one, I want you to now level the leg so that you're not internally or externally rotating. You've got hip height, and through the heel, we're going to draw some leg circles. So we're just going to, as far forwards, up, round, and down you can go without changing. And these should be the killer. Okay, and we're going to do 8 circles. So do count. People are like, that was only 3. What number are we on? 7.
How many have we got to do?
8.
8.
And then we go 8 the other way. And that's it. This is when you hold your head in the mic. He's rocking. He's actually traumatized because he's got like post-traumatic stress. Okay. When you've done your last 8 or your last one, bend the knee, reach for your foot. Potentially, if you can't hold your foot, you can grab your strap to lasso it. You're going to take the sole of the foot and you're going to place it on the floor, and it's going to go just above the bottom leg knee. So if you need to slide that bottom leg knee down, and I want you to use your hand to gently push to stretch that leg, and that should make you feel a tiny bit sick. Does it make you feel a little tiny bit sick? Oh, yeah.
I was already feeling sick.
I know, right? It gets a little tiny bit better. Mike knows what's coming. So this top leg, I want you to sort of think about sliding the buttock of that top leg back so it starts to initiate a twist and then stop there. Can you feel that? Yeah, that's the face there. That is the face. Okay, the knee still points up, and now this bottom arm that's potentially under your head, I want you to take that forward, and then you're going to turn your chest into a stretch, keeping your foot where it is, and that is a deep, deep, deep stretch, and you're going to hold that for 8 breaths. 8. Yeah, you all right,
Oh, yeah.
Trace?
Breathing up.
You've got to breathe. You've got to breathe. Look at these flexible, lovely hips.
Well, it's not.
I know. Isn't that the deepest hip stretch you've ever felt in your life? Yeah. So that bottom leg might end up being like almost straight, which is fine. When you've done 8 breaths, but don't rush them, you keep the leg crossing over. So as you come onto your back, you've just got a little ankle cross there. And then that's an unbelievably joyful release, isn't it? Oh. And then you probably just need a few moments to collect your thoughts. I know. Oh. Have you been running, Lace? Because this is like evil for runners, this stuff. So sorry. Couple of breaths. Ah. It's almost still there, isn't it? You can feel it still. So then that leg that's crossed over, just uncross the leg and hug the knee into the chest. And you can just do a sort of gentle little rocking hug there where you pull the knee in and just release it away. Does it all feel all right again now? Good. And then place that foot down. And then you can swivel round to the other side, or you can just roll over, whatever's best for you. Because how lovely that we have two legs in this situation. Oh, that was your good side. I know. Is this your fun side as well, Tracy?
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard work on this side. So we can always go. Before we start, I just want to show you a little alternative. So at the end, when we grab the foot and bring it forward, if you can't get it there, you can go to the top of your other leg. So you can have that there and you can slide the butt back and come into the twist like that. So if it doesn't make it to the floor, do it almost like a tree. So are you ready for side two? Do you want to change ends of the mat so you can see, or are you good? Oh yeah, do it. Yeah, you can work out which one it is. You can be blinded.
Take time, listen.
Yeah. Take your time, yeah. No rush at all. Okay, so while we're here, let's think about again just that rolling of the chest and how the rolling of the chest obviously affects the position of the hip. And we want to kind of do our best to keep it stacked. And then the same with either the forwards and backwards of the pelvis, and also the sort of lifting and lowering of the top hip. So that bottom hip, we almost want to sort of push that top hip just slightly away from us, so that you should feel a little bit of effort there. When you're ready, let's float that top leg, keeping an eye on the hip and the chest as we go knee to chest, knee to ceiling, internal rotation to kick back as you bring it all the way around. Can I just say, I've actually done this sequence, I think it's 6 times now, so my bar is on fire. So we'll go for 3 rounds. And you can just note the compensations or the other parts that are moving. So we really want to keep that chest pinned down and that bottom hip pinned down. What's that squeaking? Is it my hip or- So when you have come back from your last one, we're going to set the knees together in arches of the feet together, and you'll find those baby clown movements. And it is a small movement. What you could find if it's really, really small is you could tuck the knees just in towards you, just a tiny bit more. And it will give that top leg a little bit more movement. Stuff. And are you going to squish my head? You can crush it. I do have quite a small head, don't I? Yeah. And so if you've got that really definitely stacked hip, it will feel quite restrictive and quite strong. Are these your favourite ones? Yeah. Not there. I don't go that way. Yeah, no, I find it really hard on one side. So. Good. Let's do a few more. I know. Last one. And then we'll hover the leg. And we'll find just those internal rotations where we can let the knee dip towards the other leg. As long as you're not borrowing movement from the sideways. Is these anyone's least favourite? These are. Oh. And then after a few, your leg starts to feel really heavy, doesn't it? Is this your good side or your bad side? then? Yeah. Yes. Let's go another 5. On that last one, we'll keep that internal rotation and we'll extend the leg and just see if you can almost sense that you're bringing the heel back. And then we're going to find those rotations from the thigh, turning the knee up and turning the knee down. And with your hand on your hip, you can kind of like feel that work that's happening in there. But what's tempting to do is lean forward with the chest on the internal and lean back with the chest on the external. So just try and keep balanced on that side of the rib cage that you're balancing on. And see if you can really find that rotation from the thigh. Come on, Sam. Keep going.
Cramp.
Cramp. What you should say is it is an intensely beautiful situation. Okay, good. Toes are going to stay down. Heel is going to stay pointing up. We're going to lower that leg to the floor. You should really feel the inner thigh working there. And as we lift it up, we go as high as we can without borrowing from the sideways. So we sort of hit the edge of that pelvis there. Chris, you're doing surprisingly well on that side. It's a certain movement that doesn't mind and then fun. You just no. Yeah. It's almost easier the second time. Your body's like, oh, I know what's happening now. Okay, 5 more. And your last one, we'll hold up, but we'll level the leg. And then we want to find those circles through the heel. So we're taking the leg as far up, forwards, down and round as we can without moving any part of the body. Now you're going to count 8 one way. All right, Sam? You haven't done yoga for a few weeks, have you? It's so bad. And you're going to go 8 the other way when you've done those 8.
No, okay, last one. I'm gonna be smiling.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
I couldn't really move the point.
and then we go into the fun stretch when you've done your 8. So you bend the top knee, grab the foot, and you see if you can find the floor. When you move that bottom leg to accommodate that. I don't know. Okay, or you can set the foot on the inside of the leg. It can even go as low as the ankle. It doesn't matter. But we want to find quite a juicy stretch. You can push with your hand into that knee. Isn't that lovely? You're going to miss me when you go away. Okay, so it's almost as though the leg initiates the part of the twist. So now I do let that top hip just pull back, and that'll be like, oh, crikey, that's a whole new level of sensation. Yeah, and then with that top hip pulling back, you're going to release the bottom arm out from underneath the head. And then you're going to turn the top arm and you're going to come to that very strong twist where you're going to breathe for 8 breaths. Do breathe, do breathe, do breathe. It's quite intense, isn't it? That's a stretch. It's one of your favourite. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. Just remember, we've got some nice stuff coming at the end. After your 8 breaths, you can roll onto your back with that ankle crossed over the and then you can just have it like, I know, you're right. Go on, Sam. Yay! And then you can just have a little nice wiggle. Oh. You could have a little sleep now, couldn't you? All right,
That exactly.
that's the point.
It's exactly where all of my problems are.
Right.
That bit that you just attacked. Full onslaught.
Well, you know, imagine
Yeah.
if you did this every day, how could you feel? Okay, so
I
we
feel angry.
you feel angry, yeah. Two choices, actually three. One is that you're just going to use the feet together. We've done this quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. So I begin with this floating Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, and then bring the knees together. So I go from soles of the feet to inner arches of the feet. If you need a little bit more help, take the strap around the feet, and you might have to just navigate that strap a little bit. If you want more torture, place a block between your feet. Okay, so that the block going, yes, Nikki, I love it, and the cork block for even more torture. So you roll inner arch to soles of the feet on that block. And the aim is to just keep the knees as bent as they can be, as sort of close into the chest. And we want to do about 12, 16 of these. And your block feels like it starts to wiggle away from you, so it might need a little reposition. Oh, I can feel the ball, huh? Not too bastard in that. Not too bastard. Good. And the more you press the feet to the block, the more you press the inner legs towards each other, obviously the stronger this sensation is going to be. You can count however many you're doing, 12 to 16. Are they fun, son? Yes. Good. When you've done those, you can just reach for your block, take it out and hug the knees into the chest and have a little rock, a little wiggle. And then you can roll yourselves over, but in a second, we're going to come down onto our front. So if you want to sort of just get to where you can see, it really doesn't matter sort of what your upper body does here. So I'm going to come down onto my front and I'm going to have my left leg straight along the floor, hopefully not touching my balls, the right knee out to the side in that sort of sleeping position. So you really want to make sure that your knee is that hip height. You've got that 90-degree knee. And where there's that gap underneath the inner thigh, your job is to kind of like splurge yourself to the floor as much as you can. Yeah, so just close that gap there. Some people like their chest up, some people like their chest down. So the first part of this movement is to just work to slide the knee away from you and get as much connection as you can. So that'll be the first part of the stretch. I'll just show you where we're going to go from there. I'm going to take my right hand and push the right buttock down so that when I find those internal rotations, I'm not borrowing movement from my buttock. Yeah, does that make sense? So it's sort of like lifting to that limit there. And then your option from here is to just come back to the stretch and chill, or you can pop up onto your forearm. So I'm in a sphinx pose, and I'm just going to work the upper back into a little rounding, and I can add in the pelvis if I want to. So this, when I sort of tuck and lift, that's quite a nice sensation on the straight leg. As I lower it down, it just increases that stretch. Does that make sense? I will talk you through it. And then when we've done that, I'm going to drag that knee in just a little bit, point the toes up and slide the other one out. So we go for this wide knee foot connection work here. And then we'll turn to the other side. Okay, so come down on your front. This is quite nice compared to what we did, just so you know, it's not as bad. Head up or down, it doesn't matter. Right, left leg is just going to stay straight, sort of hip in line with the hip, and your right knee is going to open out to the right. You're right, Trace.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Right knee.
Oh.
Yeah, the other side. Yeah, you're right leg.
So we just did this leg. I was hoping
Yeah,
to
we
give it
did.
a rest.
Yeah, no. Oh, well, I don't know that. So, okay, so basically, the more you kind of like splurge your leg to the floor, the stronger this stretch will be. The more you kind of press your inner thigh down. And there's option to, is that all right, like, Trace? Yeah? Yeah. She does it though. She does it, yeah. You got to
Yeah,
try.
she's stubborn, that's right.
Okay, so Tracy could just hang, yeah, Tracy could hang there, okay? You could add in a little tailbone tuck. You could add in that tucking under, yeah? You could, I'm not saying you have to, yeah? Ooh.
we've all got very different shapes underneath here. So, you know, for you, it's just sort of trying to close there. Isn't that lovely, Penny? Yes, see, Penny's having a great time. Okay. So with the more we do, so we just enjoy this sense of stretch at first, that we're trying to push the knee away from the body. And then you're going to take your right hand onto your right butt cheek or onto your right hip and push it away from you. So it's like you're trying to push it down towards your foot. And then you're going to press into that inner thigh, into the inner knee, and see if you can lift the foot to internally rotate. And I'm just going to put you on camera so you can see this little movement there. Yeah, internal and down. So again, how many of these we can do? About 10, I would say. But I want you to feel when your buttock starts to lift up. So you can use the force of your hands to sort of press it down. Yeah. So it's trying not to have the hand on the actual thigh bone itself, because obviously that's the bit that's moving. So be above the thigh bone. How joyful are these? Yeah. How many we've got? Oh, no, that was quite nice. About 10-ish? Yeah, okay, good. So then you just come back into that stretch. And if you want to, just chill here in the stretch. Or if you want to, come up onto your forearms into a Sphinx type pose. That's it. Elbows are underneath your shoulders. And the tucking of the chin to the chest to push your upper back to the ceiling. And if you want to also tuck the pelvis, you'll get a bigger stretch on your straight leg. Do you feel that? And then as you land the pelvis back down, you'll curl into that little back end. So again, we do that maybe 6 of these, just finding that movement there. And when you tuck that tail, your pelvis will lift. But when you land the pelvis, you've got to find the squeeze of the bum to kind of stabilize that. These are lovely, aren't they? Lovely. Good work. And then when you have done 6 or so of those, staying up on the forearms will make life harder. Coming back down onto your front with your hands sort of supporting your head will be nicer. I want you to slide that knee back a little bit and point your toes up to the ceiling. So you just need to slide that leg out of the way. You've still got a wide knee. Bend the knee and point the toes up to the ceiling. And now slide your left knee open to about the same level and point your toes up to the ceiling. Can you connect your toes together? So it's like little, yes, look at that. So your toes are going to attempt to touch each other and they're going to attempt to point up. So you want to stab the ceiling with your toes. Now, I want you to see if you can push your hips into the floor, lift your thighs, no, and stab for about 6 to 10 of those. So you want to just like stab and lower and stab and lower. Like lifting your thighs to try and touch your toes. Is that fun, Sam? It's really butty, yeah? And Lynn is just like an absolute hero of these. She's just got the most incredible hip extension and hip internal rotation, which is just amazing. Amazing. So it should feel quite butty. And it's perfectly okay if it doesn't move. It's perfectly okay if it just attempts to. So somewhat 10 is a good number for these. You could keep going all day if you wanted to. And then you can do a little swivel to the other side by straightening out that right leg behind you, slightly leaning to the right so that you can get your left knee to come into that stretch. Is that all right, Trace? Yeah. I just need a minute. Have a minute. Okay, cool. Don't want to move. No, that's all right. So we're going to then find the, just stretch, just the chill, just chill here. And, you know, you can find the right amount of, it's that frog stretch, that right amount of effort of sliding that left knee out to the left. So more of your inner left thigh touches the floor. And again, you can be relaxing or you can be pressing the inner thigh down. So you can decide if you want to make this slightly more active or if you want to make this a little bit more passive. Good. And maybe there's a little bit more you can give it here. Or maybe you've reached your max. Then you're going to take that left hand and you're going to find the hip, the buttock, and you're going to push it away from you. Like you want to maintain the length to the lower back. And then you're going to explore those internal rotations of lifting and lowering. And what we're interested in here is the sensation at the very top of that lift. Where you're like, oh, you know, the bit where it feels weakest, the bit where it feels hardest. It doesn't matter how much or how little the leg moves here. It just matters that it's honest. So around about 10. These are quite nice compared to the earlier work, aren't they? Yeah, yeah, I like that. It gets even better. This is the class that starts bad, but it gets better and better as we go. So then when you've done that, you're gonna release that hand. And if you just want to stay and chill, that's fine. Or if you want to bring the elbows forwards underneath the shoulders and find your Sphinx pose, have a little sense here in the Sphinx pose that you're almost trying to drag the hands back to lift the chest. And you can find that a little bit more lift as you extend, finding that back bend. And then as you sort of round to tuck under, it's almost as though the hands push forward slightly. And you can lift to tuck the pelvis. Good. And just find that sort of curling sensation. Or you're just chilling. You're just chilling in that stretch. It's always on do not disturb.
So you're done.
Every time, but you, I say to him, what it does is it messes up the music and yeah. And then unfortunately, when you've done your last one of those, you have to do more of the stabby things. So you might want to come back down, you might want to stay up. You will need to slide that leg back. And then you need to connect and find that pushing of the toes. Stab and lower. Do it. How many did we do last time? About 10? 6? Something like that. 6 to 10. Sounds good. What is delightful after this is you get to come into a little child's pose. And you can just sort of push back and have a little moment. Oh, if child's pose works for you. Have a few breaths there. And then when you're ready, you can just bring yourself into a little seat where I show you the strap joy. Oh, how do we feel? This is worth it. Okay, this is absolutely worth it. The reason we need a long strap is we want to make. Okay, I didn't realize this. There's one way of going where the straps lock and one way where they don't lock. It takes me years to work that out. to make sure there's no curly bits in my strap. So if you go in nearest the belt side with the first bit over and loop, and then it locks that way. Whereas if you do it the other way, it doesn't lock. Isn't that amazing? That's why it's
Just throw that out.
taken me about, what, 10 years to work that out? Okay, so I'm going to make a gigantic loop. I've stolen your strap.
You need that.
Right, and I'm going to wear it. And I look like one of those afters, you know, I've lost this much weight when they hold those trousers up, don't they? I look like an after person. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of trial and error, but you want to have the buckle sort of accessible because we are going to need to tighten this a little bit. Okay, I'm going to show you it first because this is just delightful. I'm going to come down onto my back. I've still just got the strap around the armpit, and then I'm going to place my feet into it. So I've got this super dandasana. Oh my God, this is delightful. So yes, you can have bent knees here. You know that you can, but the strap is doing all the work. But if you're quite tight, let me show you. So watch, because we're doing a whole secret here. So I really want to get the strap quite high up around the armpits. It's almost as though, can you see me on the camera? Oh, you can't see my feet. It's almost as though the armpits trap the strap. Oh, I could just be here forever. So now I'm going to take out one of my legs and I can just rest this foot on the floor, or I can extend it along the floor. So I need to adjust the strap so it's a little tighter. This is leg stretch 1. Isn't that delightful? I don't need to do anything. Strap's doing all the work, okay? We're going to hold this. I want us to be here for a little bit of time, so we're going to go for a good 10 breaths. Now watch. Leg stretch 2. I'm just going to free up my strap to the side. The strap's doing all the work. If you know, you could support it, but you wouldn't need to. If you need to wedge a block under that hip, you wedge a block under that hip. I'm going to be here for at least 10 breaths. And it's just marvelous. Leg stretch 3 gets a little trickier because I'm next to the wall. I come back up to center. Now there's 2 ways of approaching this. One is to just move that leg slightly over so that your hip stays on the floor, so it becomes an IT band stretch, or you can twist all the way. I'll put a wall in the way, but you won't, yeah, into that. Oh, it's glorious. And then we come back and we take the other foot in. And this is where you discover if one leg's longer than the other. And then, isn't that fun? Isn't that fun?
Let me know.
Yeah, it really is. So if you, if for any reason your strap does not work, you get to do it just by holding your strap. It's not as fun, but it still works. Okay, so make sure it's right up under your armpits. Bring yourself down onto your back. Poke your feet into the strap. You don't need straight legs, but it needs to be tight enough that you feel that it's support. Isn't that great, Nikki? Yeah, I told you it was worth it. Okay, so do you want a big one? Have this one. Prepared for you then. Be prepared strap. Yeah. So you find just the right level, and it really is important. You wiggle it right up underneath your armpit for armpit chafe. And if for any reason it doesn't work, you can just hold the strap classically around the foot. It will still do the same shapes. It's just not as great. Isn't it great? Is it a little bit tight? Or is that all right? Is that quite nice? Bum on the floor. It's your long legs up here. Oh, yeah. So don't let the bum lift away from the floor. So we've just got both legs in the strap. As we find, can you feel that? Quite nice, isn't it? And then you can like trust your arms to leave them on the floor. What are you done?
Well, not quite there.
Not quite there. We're just waiting. That's it. Armpit, armpit. Okay. So there should be this amount of tension. So it might need adjusting when you take your left foot out of the strap. So if you take the left foot out and just set that foot down onto the floor, do you need to retighten or loosen or readjust the strap for that right foot? It should have the same sensation that it's just suspended there. And this is our stretch. This is our 10 breath stretch as we hold here. If you feel you want more, straighten your left leg along the floor. But if you feel you want less, keep it. Is this the laziest leg stretch you've ever done in your life? Yeah. Are you all right, Penny? Have you got it? Yeah. Tighten it up. Yeah, exactly. That's why it's quite nice to have the buckle quite accessible, or the strap of the buckle quite accessible. Good work. So we take a nice 10 breaths. And then a little bit like the idea that we had when we're relying on our front, with the inner thigh and we wanted to push the knee away from us, you want to sort of splurge into the floor with your shoulders. So they sort of like press into the floor and widen. And if your bottom leg is straight, the same sensation there that you're trying to push that heel away from you. So as much as the back of the leg as possible is in touch with the floor. We want to maintain that spine length, that axial length. So that this is like a whole body experience rather than an isolated experience of that top leg. So you've got to know when you've done 10 breaths. And then you might need to just give the strap a slight shimmy, like you're sort of using both hands to pull it round as you let that leg slowly open. If you feel that it's pulling you over, wedge a block underneath your outer thigh. If you feel as though the strap can support you here, and your aim here is to ground down through that opposite hip, is to ground down through that left hip. And then you can be almost starfishing with your arms here. Oh. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? The horrid stuff. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And again, it's just that sort of, what will happen is the strap will pull you and the strap will try and tug. So you almost have to like do your little reset. Should just be here all day, probably. I will say that the last one's the worst one. just so you're like, oh, it's quite nice having the leg out to the side. So then when we, you might not be on 10 breaths yet. That's fine if you're not. But it should just be a case of bringing that leg back towards the ceiling. I need to shimmy the strap around to do that. Now, if you keep your hips on the floor and just move that right leg over to the left a little bit, it's quite a strong IT band on that outer hip there. So it might be like, oh, that is what I need. And I want to stay here with my pelvis on the ground. Or you might choose to start to roll onto the outer edge of your left hip. So your right buttock actually lifts away from the floor and you come into a twist. So I need you to sort of decide on which of those. And if you feel that 10 breaths here is excessive, go for 6 to 8. But this possibly requires just a little bit more awareness. If you can, right shoulder stays down or right arm stays open. And then don't rush this, but you'll simply return to center. And then you can hook the other foot into the strap to join this one. And you can have a moment to just sort of reset if you feel like your strap's slipped and you need to readjust the strap around the armpits. But Supta Dandasana, you could just stay here for days. This is really good if you want to do legs up the wall, but you don't have a wall. But you do have a strap. That's the other one. Okay. And you'll take your time to unhook your right leg. And it can just begin with the foot to the floor if that's better for you. Doesn't need to straighten along the floor. And we'll just go for this classic leg stretch with that foot pointing up towards the ceiling. And really have this sense that you can ease into it. You know, it might be that the knee is very bent, that's fine. It might be that the floor leg knee is bent, also fine. It might be that as you relax into it, you can surrender a little bit more into the shape. And the little adjustments that we can do to ourselves are just wiggle a little bit more length out of the spine. And you can connect here into the, if you have the strap around the back, you can connect into the breath within the strap, because the inhalations actually pull a little bit more length out of the spine. And if you are holding the strap in your hands, then you can still breathe into the space of the back body. And you realize that the breath becomes this little undulation. And that the body feels slightly different on the inhalation and the exhalation. If your leg on the floor is straight, you can sort of push that heel away from you more to connect the back of the leg to the ground as much as possible. And you can also notice if your left outer hip is hoiking towards your left shoulder. And you can balance that outer hip by almost drawing it down. But you need to find the right amount. It shouldn't be overwhelming. It should feel quite balanced. And the arms aren't overly needed here, but they might just be that you have them close or away from you. And then when you're sort of like about 10 breaths, we can start to open the legs to the side. And again, it might take a little shimmy of the strap for you to do that. It's not all the way to the floor. It's just out at that side angle there. And again, if you want that block underneath the outer hip to stop you rolling, that's fine. The strap should do enough to stop you rolling. So our grounding now here is through the right leg, through the right hip. If your right knee is bent, no problem. You just let it drop open to the right, like a half Baddha Konasana position. And you might find that it's a gradual thing that you start to roll over. So you just have to sort of keep an awareness through your your right leg. You can just explore the evolution of the time in the pose and how it changes. How it surrenders. And then in your own time, when you've done about 10 breaths, you take the leg back up to center. And you can keep the pelvis on the floor as you allow the leg just to drift over. And it's quite strong. It's quite strong there. But if you are allowing that left hip to lift and come more into a twist, just when it's enough, you might find that actually here, it's better with a bent knee and I need to retighten the strap. And then we're just using the left upper body to sort of draw down through that left shoulder, almost as though we're trying to turn the chest to the left, heading into the strap as the pelvis twists to the right. And then very slowly and gently, we'll return onto our backs and we'll come back into that Supta Dandasana where we can take both feet into the strap. And what's really nice here is to sort of gently just rock the legs side to side to get a little back massage. And this can be a bigger or a smaller movement, just finding that little side to side rock. It can be quite slow and steady, or it can be more of a jiggle. Or you might just decide being still is better here. And then there's a couple of options that you can take here. This can potentially be quite strong. So you can choose to keep the legs straight as you drift over into a twist with the legs straight, or you can bend the knees and tighten the strap with bent knees. So it sort of just wraps around your feet, around the hips, and come into a little bent knee twist here. If you were just having the strap around your feet rather than wrapped around your torso, you might just want to lose the strap and come into that bent knee twist. So Jatara, forget the name of this one, straight-legged twist. It's pretty beastly. And we're going to spend a few breaths on each side. Isn't that great, Lynn, when you make it to the floor? Yes. You know what? It actually looks really beautiful. I don't care how torturous it feels. It looks great. Yeah. So what I recommend is that you can use your arms to support this twist here. And you might just want to drift over for a few breaths each side, then change sides, or you might want to go back and forth a few times. So just leave it up to you how you explore this twist. The bent knee version is obviously a different thing we're working to the straight leg version. It's strong, but it's easier than not having a strap. Right. Yeah. So whenever you feel that you've done both sides evenly, you can still take your time here, or you're all done. Sam has done the wrapped Baddha Konasana, which is really quite nice. I'm just going to put you on camera, Sam. Which is where he's taken the strap from the chest and wiggled it down towards the top of the pelvis, bent the knees, soles of the feet together, so the strap wraps around the outer ankles, and you can do a supported Baddha Konasana, which is quite nice. So strap actually goes between the legs and around the outer edges of the feet, and it will need to tighten up quite a lot here, but not so much that you can't release your legs down. So that's an option. It might not be the option you want to take. It's quite nice. The other option is to just use your blocks. Isn't that great? The other light, it might be. That's it. And you can do some. That's a little pretty interesting, isn't it? Is that right, Tom? Yeah. Okay. You don't have to do that. You can take any position that you prefer. So just let it relax, let your hips chill. And just feel how lovely it is now, how it was in the beginning. And you might be in this position and think, yeah, this is something I can hold for just a short time. And then I just want to sort of draw the knees together, unhook the strap from the feet, and just leave the strap around the back, but just rest the legs in a different position. That's fine. Or you can stay here. Just finding your breath. Finding the breath in the back. And if there's a little bit of sensation in the legs from the position that you've chosen, you might need to keep an awareness of the breath, keeping it quite deep, quite steady. You just go for another few breaths. So if you've got the strap around the feet, it might be easier to just gently lift the feet so that you can unhook the strap. And then, taking your time, we'll all draw the knees up onto the chest. Hugging deep. Take that hug and that rock. And then you can gently come to seated. Which is pretty much the first time we've set up in this class. So then we'll bring the palms together. Namaste. That was awful in some spots, but quite nice in others, wasn't it? What was that?